We are the people that make our lives complete by taking our chances and going into abandoned buildings. We live our lives out in abandoned buildings.
Yeah, kind of like that. The thing with squatting is that when you want to get a place, there's several things involved with looking for a place to squat. One, you get tired of the system. You realize that you don't belong. That system keeps rejecting you. It wants you to conform to some bizarre sort of rules that just are impossible to conform to. So you seek a way out. Sometimes it's people in small towns. They get that punk rock bug, and they're like, well, we need to go look for some freedom or something. And they see a video and they think, well, I could squat. And it sounds like rarely do they want to get, the mainstream media wants to keep squatting off the charts because they don't want people to know that squatting is like done. They want to make it seem like, well, everyone's a crime. Because when it comes down to it, it's the mothers that really run the society. They tell people what to do. The judge does it because his wife's a mother and will, make his life a living hell if he doesn't do what she tells him to do. So the thing with squatting is that you have to, if you're going to squat, it's not just the first time succeeds. Okay? You have to really just you have to look at it like, you're going to make mistakes. You may find a house and be like, oh, this is cool, and then move in, and a month later, the owner shows up and is like, we're renovating this, with a big work crew and a bunch of shit. You've got to just pack your shit and go. Doing squatting properly requires that you do research. So you would go into a county's website, and of a property, you enter the information into the website to find who owns the property, if they paid their taxes, how long ago the taxes, what's going on with it. So you can get an idea of if somebody's current on the taxes on the abandoned property, then chances are it may be something that somebody's going to come back and reclaim at some point. So I guess there's three different parts to squatting. One, the social implications. Two, the legal ramifications. And three, the lifestyle impacts. And then each one of those and how they affect each other and play into each other to make a cohesive and doable unit. It's entirely possible to squat, but if you don't have one of those areas in a line with the other areas, then it's going to fail. This house here in Pittsburgh, I opened it up in 2002, and it's still open today, and there's still people living in it. And because I went to the city and I fought them, the health department tried to shut me down, and the a friend of mine heard about it. He contacted the city paper, and the city paper was going to do a big story on squatting. So the health department backed off. They disappeared because they don't want to hear this stuff. They don't want to hear about squatting.
Elaborate on how and why the health department was going to shut down.
Water. They said there was no water service to the house. I showed them there was a rainwater collector on the roof. I showed them that I could collect rainwater and then using gravity run it into the toilet and flush the toilet and run it into the kitchen sink to wash dishes and that kind of thing. For drinking, you get better water, but in the summer, you have hot showers and there's a lot of water. I mean, a lot of water rains on these houses. So they were okay with that, but they just stuck with their policy until they heard the city paper come forward. So I actually had a meeting with the health department about the house, and they were going to they basically, what they did was they issued a statement that I'm not supposed to be living there, plain and simple. And then they backed away. They have a tendency to turn something that's a good thing into a bureaucratic nightmare. Very easy. So that was kind of like the issues with the house.
After the health department, were there any other obstacles?
Yeah, no one bothered me after the health department. The city inspector came by and they did an outside inspection. They said they weren't going to go into the house, but they were going to do an outside inspection. The outside inspection said that everything was okay. They ended up coming back and doing an inside inspection, and they said that all I needed to do was put a handrail in, and I needed water and a heating unit. Like, yeah. So, when getting into squatting, you want to be aware of three things about the city. Are they jerks? Are they cool? Can you talk to them? Are they gonna put you off? Are they gonna file paperwork? Are they gonna have you in court? If they're gonna have you sitting in a courtroom, unless you've been in the house for 2 years or 3 years, it's not worth going to court over. More than likely, unless you kind of go by your feel. If it seems like the house is going to be something that you can actually keep, then it may be worth going to court. But when it goes to that level, it's kind of like a yes or no thing. So someone's going to say yes, you can stay there, or no, and we're going to bring people in with guns, and they're going to force you to leave. And so it's a matter of that sort of thing. But you also have to consider what the owner of the property is doing and what they want. There are some people that own houses that, for whatever reason, their husband gave it to them in the, divorce or their will or something that they don't want to have anything to do with the property anymore. So they just abandon it. In which case, that's the perfect scenario, because that's exactly what adverse possession or squatters' rights is all about. It's about going into a place like that and putting it together to be able to run a situation of being able to have a misused, underutilized, or neglected property to put it into use in the public sphere. It's an ancient law. It goes back to pre-Babylonian times. Every country in the world has a squatting provision on their books. A few of them don't have laws, at least Somalia, but and then so every country has understands the concept that, you know, if you own a property and you just don't do anything with it or take care of it, that you don't deserve to have it. You just, you know, like that it would serve society and society's better interest to have the property maintained and someone living there. So that's why they want people to live in the property. You have to show that you're willing to take care of the property, and that given the opportunity, you can pay taxes on the property. At that point, then you have the ability to look at it through squatters' rights or adverse possession, which is the legal term for squatters' rights.
Scaling down from actually dealing with bureaucrats and legalities and all that, squatting life day to day, and like have steps to maintain that, you know, appearance of the fact that you're maintaining property in society.
If you think you're gonna work at McDonald's and squat in a house and play video games all day, you're kind of like it's kind of like that's not going to happen, in part because when you're squatting, you're doing something that through your own actions is claiming that you're doing something to benefit the society. In so doing, you have to show that you're benefiting the society. And how are you benefiting society? In what ways? Because that is the illustration. Your fee or your payment for living in a property is to take care of it, to maintain it, and to do something to make the society a better place. You're improving the world around you. Some of the things we did was there were a lot of abandoned lots in the north side where we're squatting. That we took over the lots, planted sunflower seeds, did sunflower remediation, got rid of the dead sunflower plants, and it would draw the lead out of the soil to make it so that you could actually grow food there. So that's one way that you can do it. Simple planting food like sunflowers does a huge change to the area, because you're making that soil capable of supporting life again. Sunflower remediation is really good. The other thing is art. Being an artist or a musician helps as well, because you're being creative. You're showing that creative energy, that spirit, so that, you know, but you playing music, by you making art, you're also improving society. If you're living in an abandoned house and shooting up dope, you're not improving society, and you're not squatting. That's not squatting. That's just living in an abandoned house, you scumbag. So,
Living in a house and shooting up dope.
yeah, that's so. Squatting has the potential to break social norms, expand barriers, puts places and buildings into a perspective that, while so many square inches of the earth are designated to a value, this stretches back to the original notion that, you know, we're all living on this ball of dirt and rock together. We've got to work together to try to improve the world, and not every way that we can improve the world is going to come through a courtroom or through taxes and paying rent and that kind of thing. It's absurd, and extremely closed-minded and myopic who think that you go out, get a job, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a better job, then you graduate college, you get a better job, then you get a master's degree, and you get married, then you have kids, and then you go old, and then you die. It works for some people, but it can become leftist very easily if you're not careful about how you're putting your how by defining the world through just those criteria alone is an ignorant uh, way to you're setting up your society for failure basically.
You can also use the value in squatter hammer yourself in their improvement of the house, the property, the community, because otherwise you may not be able to retain such property and have the opportunity to do so.
Oh yeah, there are people, there are Leonardo da Vinci's that can't get their hands on a pencil. They're incredibly talented people. They're absolute masters at violin, but they don't even have an instrument. And the idea is that the tools are available. They're there if the person's willing to go at a creative way to get them. Much of the Sistine Chapel was painted by Michelangelo with one of the things he used in the pigments for his inks was eggs. You know, break up eggs, rotten eggs, put them in the paint. And the other thing they would use is urine. So if you think about the beauty of the Sistine Chapel, and then you consider that there's urine particles and old rotten eggs and just like random weird shit up there, that as the artist's intention is to make people look at the world in a different way. And so that's one of the primary functions of squatting, is that it makes the society look at this property in a different way. It changes people's outlooks too, because like that one scumbag junkie bum that lived in an abandoned house, pissed off a lot of people. But one fucking innovative, creative, outgoing, personable, and willing individual that can change all of that, can change the perception, can change the entire dynamic of the situation, because people rely on their impressions, and those first impressions, they rely on them. But then when they get that person that's creative, they compare them to that junkie bum, and they realize that junkie bum was just a junkie bum. And then they can start to get a grasp of their own abilities and their own creativity and their own influence in the society, and how they can influence the society as a whole. I made a zine when I went to the health department. I made a zine, Squatters' Rights, with every state and squatting, and then every country. Well, at least I think there were like 10 of the major countries that had information about their laws online: Denmark, England, France, Germany, about their squatting rights, in order to be able to kind of communicate that to people. When I gave it to them, I think that they realized that in some ways this wasn't a junkie bum, just some random guy that showed up here.
Thoughtful, intelligent person with purpose.
Right. And that blew them away. their definition of life itself completely changed because of that. It also ups the standard for people that are wanting to squat. Then it means that you can't be the homeless junkie bum. You know, you have to actually do something. I've met squatters that were, you know, farmers and urban gardeners and actually artists and musicians. And I've met squatters that were just 3 wake-up beers under their pillow alcoholics. You know, just groups of drunks that all they do is drink and laugh all day. And when it comes down to it, in some ways, they may actually be helping society by numbing themselves so that they don't put their horrible pollution of their mind into the society itself. So, yeah.
Now, before we finish up here, I have one question that's been in the back of my mind, and I just can't let you go without asking it. What would Harambe's take be on this?
I think that he had been forced to live in an enclosure in a zoo, and his world was the opposite of squatting. Squatting is going in and taking over a place through your own will. In Harambe's case, he was forced to be in the cage and had no choice on any way to get out of the cage. Everything he did in the cage was monitored. So he was always on display and never had the chance to hide. Whereas squatting, it gives you that chance to go in there, and then the shell of what you're allowing the world to see of you is that house.
Well put, my friend.
Yeah. Bam.
In abandoned buildings, we make our lives out of independent buildings, and we know that we are cooler than better. Ham hocks and collard greens, pickled beets and black-eyed peas, t-shirts and underwear, socks and drawers and dildos there. Yeah, broken TV sets and VCRs and DVD players and TVs and mice and crusty computers and socks and drawers and couches and moldy things and crackheads. Yeah, these are just a few of the things you can find if you look into the doors of an abandoned building. You will see. Hey. That is not to say that every abandoned building has a crackhead up in it, and it is not true if you listen to the sound of the boom.